Hello and welcome to Diplomatic Channel. I'm Amarachi Ubani. This week, with the Nigerian presidential election just weeks away now, presidential candidates are speeding up the campaigns as they try to convince voters to turn up on election day and vote. Candidates have to be well-rounded for the job ahead. So what have candidates said about Nigeria's foreign affairs? We'll hear from one candidate who faced a town hall at the Nigeria Institute of International Affairs in Lagos. Then, with all eyes on the upcoming elections, what do Nigerians in the diaspora think about INEC and the country's preparations for the polls? We'll be speaking to a former presidential candidate who now resides in Canada about his thoughts. Einaya Wosu, a lawyer, was candidate of the New Generation Party in the 2019 elections. Now he supports another politician in the upcoming polls. That's Diplomatic Channel in a wrap. A quick check on other discussions in diplomatic circles, and we'll be right back. France's Defense Minister Sébastien Lecornu says his country and Australia have agreed to cooperate to manufacture several thousands of 155mm shells to help Ukraine. Counterparts from both nations had held high-level talks, the first since Canberra ditched a defense accord with Paris in favor of a tie-up with Britain and the United States 2 years ago. Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa on Monday welcomed the Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko as he arrived in Harare at the start of a 2-day visit to the African country. President Mnangagwa was at the airport alongside dancers and cheering crowds. Reports say the main bilateral talks take place on Tuesday, as well as a ceremony to mark a Belarusian-backed program of mechanization of Zimbabwean farms. The trip comes on the heels of a whistle-stop tour of African nations by Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, attempting to shore up support for Russia's military actions in Ukraine. Finally, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken kicked off his Mid-East tour with the first leg in Egypt. During a news conference, he said it would call for Israel and Palestine to calm tensions when he visits. In new bloodshed, Palestinian officials said Israeli troops killed a 26-year-old man at a checkpoint in the occupied West Bank. The army said troops opened fire on the man's car after he rammed into one of them and attempted to flee an inspection. Israel is on high alert after Palestinians opened fire in a street outside a synagogue on Friday, killing 7 people in the worst such attack in Jerusalem area for over a decade.
Hold back their names a little bit wider.
One would think that the Nigeria Institute of International Affairs has no business with the upcoming presidential elections in Nigeria. But as recent events at Chatham House have shown, Nigeria's foreign policy is a reflection of its domestic policy and politics. Hence the Institute's decision to organize a platform for presidential candidates to exhibit their understanding of this. The first guest honoring the invitation is the presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, the SDP, Prince Adewale Adebayo, who spoke on the topic, the world of Nigeria and Nigeria in the world, foreign policy as an adjunct of domestic priorities.
Before I go out to do the diplomacy of collecting more, I must do the domesticity of using what I have well. The first priority of our government is abolition of poverty. And it has its own diplomatic side, but majority of it has to do with accountability in our government at home.
During a question and answer session after, he takes on topics such as the state of Nigeria's missions abroad, insecurity in Africa, a war in Ukraine, among others.
We have to do economic diplomacy, we have to do security diplomacy, we have to do humanitarian diplomacy, we have to do cultural diplomacy. So people have to be capable of being useful to the country before we send them out.
It's a robust conversation among former career diplomats, traditional rulers, Nigeria's security forces, journalists and researchers at the NIIA. Prince Adebayo later emphasizes his confidence at winning the upcoming polls.
My chances depend on 2 things. Nigerians being determined to change course this time. If Nigerians don't want the status quo, then they will look in our direction. Second, we've been making the case that there's less risk in voting for someone like me who is coming for the first time than sticking with the status quo they know is sure to fail.
The Director General of the NIIA, Professor Hosal Sagai, explains why fora like this is important for all seeking political office.
In recent times, the world has opened its doors to Nigeria in more significant ways than ever before, because these are changing times in the global order, and Nigeria needs to take its rightful place.
He hopes more presidential candidates will honor invitations from the Institute and provide Nigerians a more rounded view of their prospective leaders. There's so much going on in the country, with INEC extending dates for collection of PVCs, that's permanent voter cards, mock training for INEC staff, and the visa ban by the United States government on certain individuals for undermining the Nigerian democratic process, and even the deadline, now extension of the redesigned Naira notes. What do Nigerians in the diaspora make of events back home? Let's speak to one of them. Einaya Wosu was a presidential candidate in the 2019 presidential election in Nigeria. He now lives in Canada. Einaya, thank you so much for joining me on the program today.
Thank you, Amarachi, for having me today. And good day to all viewers.
Yeah, and it's been a while since you campaigned to be president of Nigeria. Is that still an ambition for you?
For me, I think events have taken over that aspiration, because what brought us into the race at that time was the situation on ground, the bad governance and the bad economy. But looking at the presidential aspirants, some of them, we think there's hope, and we decided to, kind of support them, in so many other ways. There are a lot of things we could contribute towards the national development, apart from being contesting for elected positions. So I'm doing that at the moment, at the background, trying to, run some programs and all that, especially sensitizing the Nigerian society. So that's what we're doing at the moment.
And I know you've been keeping tabs on developments back home. So I just want to know whether you're pleased, with what you're hearing as concerns the electoral body, that's INEC's preparations for the presidential election on February 25th.
Yeah, I think INEC has done quite a lot. There's been a lot of improvement from where we're coming from, and we commend them for that. But there's also room for improvement. Following the judgment that just came out from the Adeleke judgment, you see that would help INEC to know what is actually wrong with the system on ground, and perhaps improve on it a few days before the election. But again, on the general part of it, you look at the electorate, what is the mood in the country? How are the electorates, the society, reacting to this 2023 election? You see that the election is going to be a determining factor, to say, because when you follow the events of a country, and the country have gone through bad governance for a long time, most people give up or are about to give up. And all of a sudden, from nowhere, there emerges a candidate, or two candidates, or three candidates, and they think that there's hope, that things could be possible. That kind of rekindles the hope in people, the faith in the nation. And so I think what people are doing for 2023 election is that Nigerians are giving Nigeria a second chance. But that's good, but it's also dangerous, because if we don't get it right in 2023, it will bring about emotional, physical, and psychological effect on people. If you look at what is happening in the country, you see that a lot of agitations are all underwaters now. Everybody's calmed down, trying to see if this election will work, because they are thinking this is an opportunity to get it right. It looks like it might be right, because they are looking at a particular candidate. They're thinking something is going to happen. The last time we had this kind of election was Abiola's election, where people, at that time, if you look at it, Nigeria was at a crossroad just like we are now. Economy was bad, security was bad, and so people were anxious and people came out to vote. People came out to be part of the system. So that's exactly what we're experiencing now. People are giving Nigeria a second chance, so hopefully things will go right. But INEC, they are doing well, but they could do better. Yeah.
I understand the part of people giving Nigerians a second chance, but people in the country will look at you guys who are outside of the country. I mean, you used to be part of this nation, you know how the system works. For you being outside and looking in, what are the, pressure points for you, the areas you think that people will be most anxious about regarding the elections?
Number one, people in the villages, most of them don't care for this election. And why is because there's nothing they're expecting, because they believe that nothing has happened. Their roads has been bad. Government have come, government have gone. Nothing is happening. So some of them are saying, why bother? But some of them are also saying, okay, I think we can get it right now. They are saying there's this man that can do magic. People are saying there's this man that can, change things. And they'll say, okay, we'll have to give this man a chance. So that's also awakening people. But the other part of it, which has been with us, is the hunger as a weapon by politicians, by government. So people are very hungry. So they want to vote for the right person. But what would a hungry man do when you give him a bag of rice and 10,000, and all he needs to do is to vote for him? That bag of rice and maybe a little change makes a lot of difference. So we do much of the politics in the cities. I think these politicians should move in to the villages, and talk to people. The people are not getting the vibes. They are not getting the vibes of change. Better government can come through voting. We're concentrating the orientation in the cities. But I talk to the people in the village. Their expectation is high. The people are hungry. And that's the only thing they want. So the only reason why a lot of people are coming out to vote in the village now is because they're getting this idea. People are telling them that there's a magician, there's a messiah, there's somebody who they think might take the country afar, So they are kind of saying, okay, we are going to come out and support whoever is going to do this. And that's why, but INEC, I don't know if INEC, if it's the responsibility of INEC, all the political parties, to really do this awareness in the villages. But for the guys in the city, some of them are supporting some parties because of what they get from it. And some people are actually looking at changing the system, but hunger, it's a big factor. It's a big one, and is affecting the credibility of the voters, yeah.
We'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll continue with our conversation with Eina Wosu, a former presidential candidate in one of Nigeria's elections. Stay with us. Welcome back, and now back to the conversation with Eina Wosu on INEC's preparation and some of the issues in the country at the moment pre-election. Stay with us. Now, I'm sure you've also heard about the rush for the redesigned Naira notes. Banks have been, rushed by Nigerians seeking the 1,000, the 500 to 200 Naira notes. And then there's a deadline. The former deadline was January 31st for the old denominations, these denominations, to become non-legal tender. And now the deadline has been moved to February 10. It was announced on Sunday by the CBN Governor, Godwin Emefiele. What do you make of this, and what effect do you think it could have, on elections in the long run? I know that one of the reasons perhaps is, to cut vote buying during elections. Do you think this would really affect if elections positively, or you think this could backfire on Nigerians themselves?
The politicians, who have millions, if not billions, stashed away in their underground, in their safety tanks, in their vaults, in their homes, and in their guest houses. Those are the people who have problems. And if you watch events, those are the people complaining. Okay, right. Before now, if you go to Mama Puts and all that in Nigeria, some of them were already using POS. So in 2 months' time, even granite sellers will have POS. The problem I think that affects the common people, which I will expect the CBN and the banks and the government itself to look into, is the availability of these new notes. The ATMs are not, because few days before now, if you go, people walking, people take money from their grandparents or their parents or their own money, go to the bank, deposit their old currency. They now come out to use the ATM with the expectation that they will get the new money. Whoa, the ATM gives them old money. That is not acceptable. But again, I think CBN has a role to play here, because I'm not saying there's a foul play in the banks, but everything is possible right now. So what I think CBN should do will be kind of to audit the commercial banks and see if what people take out from the ATM and the withdrawals people make of this new money reflects the actual amount of new money they got. They will know if the banks are compromising, if they're giving bulk of this money to certain class of people, or, because we have to understand why the public are being starved of this fund. Right. If the CBN is sure that they produce enough money, so why is it not going around? So there must be something happening somewhere. Instead of extending the days, they should make the ATMs more effective, the network and all that. They should collaborate with the banks and see how these things will happen. But it's going to affect the politicians the more, because they are the ones, they can't give out checks, they can't do transfers for election buying and all that. So they want cash. So those are the people complaining. But I don't see why the government should give them this 10 days, because even the 10 days is not enough to change all the money they have. But what the government have done is to say, we're listening, government, we've had your cry. Okay, we're giving you 10 days, but they know that 10 days is not enough to, change what is happening with the politicians.
Is this also affecting diaspora remittances? I don't know if you've tried, sending money back home in the last, say, 5 days or so. Do you also hear people complain about not having the new notes? Because it's much easier, I might add, to actually get, monies in, the higher denominations and having to get them in smaller ones. I mean, there's no problem with finding the 100 naira notes and all the other smaller denominations, but when it comes to receiving bulk money, it's easier to have them in the higher denominations.
The higher denomination, yeah. That's what I was trying to say there. A few days ago, I sent money home to some people in the village. And what I do is I send the money to a particular person in bulk, just to avoid the charges if I send it individually. So what the person said is, well, because I can't, normally he will go to the bank, withdraw this money and come and give to these people. But now he said, I can't withdraw this bulk money. The new money is not available. And some shops in the villages are not even accepting old money. So what he was going to do was to now use his bank app and transfer this money to these people. The old people who don't have bank account, he transferred to their son with their consent. So people are adjusting to it. It's also creating a problem, but they are adjusting to it. I mean, like every other process, when there's a change, people adjust. So I believe that within the few weeks coming or months, people would have fully adjusted. The government would have achieved the cashless society they want to achieve, but the banks would have kind of brought in some innovative ideas to make their ATMs become more effective, and there will be a lot of payment options at the lower cadre. But it's affecting people right now. It's really affecting people. But with time, we think it will give away. But we are happy with it because it's a policy for the first time that's affecting the rich. When something affects the rich like that, and they are the ones shouting, you don't see grandmothers in the village complaining about this. It's the same people who have billions stocked somewhere that are complaining. You know, my auntie, in the village, she's exchanged, all she had to exchange was 15,000. That was the only cash she had in the house. And she sent somebody to the bank to change it, and that's it. You know, so I think people will get used to the system, you know, with time. But the only thing is that the bank has a job to do and CBN has a job to do, especially with the ATMs and money transfers and how fast monies are received. Yeah.
Yeah, it is important to have the monies available. And as we close this interview, I know I started with asking you, about you still having presidential ambitions, but as we close, you think you'll ever come back to Nigeria, perhaps, and then maybe after the elections and do your part, perhaps?
Definitely. You know, I'm coming back to Nigeria because, you know, at some point in your life, you know, you get tired when you think you have achieved everything you need to abroad. You know, what else are you doing here? You need to go home. That's where you have your respect. That's where you have your ambition. That's where you can do things. That's where you want to affect people, you know, at the lowest level. That's where your impact could be felt. So, and a lot of people abroad have that same ambition. You know, my wife is a medical doctor. She's looking at establishing a hospital back home. But all these things are in check. People are holding off. They are saying, okay, let's see what's going to happen. Let's see who's going to win the election. Let's see what is going to become of Nigeria after 2023. You know, so a lot of people are keeping things on hold. That's why I said from the beginning that this election is a determining factor. In fact, I have friends who their parents or relations died here in abroad, and they want to take them back home. They are waiting, paying hard-earned dollars and pounds, waiting for election to be over before they can take their loved ones home for burial. You know, I have people who haven't bought their Easter ticket, who want to go visit home for Easter celebration. They've not bought their ticket. They are waiting. They want to see what happens after 25th February. You know, is there still a country to go back to? We hope that, you know, we pray that by 25th of February, we're going to get it right as a country. We're going to get the right candidate in, a candidate that will have to rebuild the country. And once that happens, you will see the rate, people that will be coming back to Nigeria will be more than people going, because people are tired of living abroad. They want to go home. You've achieved everything, but you want to go home. You want to go and set up something in Nigeria. You want to go and build a hospital in Nigeria. You want to grow your business in Nigeria. You want to go into farming. You even want to be part of the political process. But you want a good system, an environment that can let you do that. So we hope we'll get it right this time.
And we're all hoping along with you. Thank you so much, Aina, for sharing your time with us. Appreciate your thoughts, your opinions, as well as your analysis on the issue.
It's always my pleasure. Thank you very much.
And that's Diplomatic Channel this week. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani. You can watch this episode again and other episodes of Diplomatic Channel. Just go to youtube.com/channelsweb and look for Diplomatic Channel. We always upload latest editions of the program online. You can also send in your questions and comments on social media, of course, at Amarachi Ubani on Instagram, Ubani_Amarachi on Facebook, and Amarachi Ubani, Amarachi_Ubani on Twitter. Thanks for watching again. I'll see you next time.